Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. This is some breaking news. Sheikh Jassim has offered a brand new last-ditch bid for Manchester United. Reports coming out this afternoon that the Qataris bidding to buy Manchester United have made another final last-ditch effort to secure control of Manchester United. This is an interesting story. I'm joined by Jay Marty, of course. Hello, Jay. Sorry. This is an interesting story because it kind of is the full spectrum of news. Because at face value, this is a story about Sheikh Jassim submitting a fifth and final bid for Manchester United. That's what that is. The rest of it, which we'll get into and get your thoughts in the comments, is actually, if we look a little bit deeper, perhaps an indication of sort of advancements from Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos's bid. This is almost a reactionary bid than a bid that suggests control and confidence from Sheikh Jassim, according to people closer to the situation than us. You've got the article from the text from the article there. Do you want to give us some of the details? This is coming out of the Times where we've got this article. Do you want to go through that, Jay, and sort of talk us through why this isn't as simple as new bid in, let's see what happens? This could indicate more.
Yeah, it could. I mean, there's two ways to look at it. There's one way is this is the blow it out of the water bid that everyone has been waiting for. Everyone has been saying, why doesn't he just do a great big bid that blows Sir Jim Ratcliffe out of the water, that blows Elliott Management Group out of the water, whoever else is involved, although I think it's mainly just him and Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and just goes, right, there's the dough. I've got all access to these funds. That's it. Case closed. Give me the club. Yeah. So you could argue this is that, or it looks like might be the case. We don't know for definite. This could be a bit of getting rumblings and noises that he isn't going to be successful. So this is a way for him to almost walk away on his terms. Yeah. To go, look, I've put a final bid in now. This is it. There's no more take it or leave it. There's no more one more bid or another improved offer or let's have some more negotiations or let's have another round of bidding. There's none of that. This is it. And if this isn't successful, I'm walking away, because he might realise that he isn't going to be successful, which is kind of strange because I always felt he would be successful. I mean, we don't know, he might still be, but we always got the impression that he had almost unlimited wealth because he's got access to the Qatari investment fund or whatever it's called. So you would think that he can just put in as many bids as it takes until he's successful. But it definitely feels like he's either running out of patience and he might just be fed up of waiting, or he's looking at going, you know what, maybe I'm not going to be successful. At least this is my terms rather than being left with a bit of egg on my face. Yeah. We'll get into this article by the Times and then you can give us your thoughts, get involved in the comments, and we'll look at other articles as well, because some articles are saying slightly different things. In the Times, and this all broke this afternoon, it says the Qataris bidding to buy Manchester United have submitted a final last-ditch offer to secure control at Old Trafford and will withdraw from the process if it is not accepted by Friday, which is quite an ultimatum. You've got 2 days to make your minds up or I'm done. 2 days to make your minds up on a process that has so far taken about 4 months. And involves billions of pounds. Yeah, this is that action there, that kind of ultimatum, again, is one of the many kind of clues that this might not be going the way Sheikh Jassim wants it to, because that is a strange, this is a huge deal that is the biggest in sports history. You've got 2 days to sort it out, or I'm gone. That seems like it's quite strange. That's probably not going to happen. But who knows? And we know that the Glazers can be a little bit precious, can't they? We've heard that they were upset with the way Sheikh Jassim and Sir Jim Ratcliffe were both talking about restoring United to former glories. It seems that you have to, I mean, we all hate them and it's ridiculous, but you have to sort of almost be kind to them, and the way you go about this approach, you have to sort of mollycoddle them, because you can't just go, because they've already kicked off from what we hear about the way they've been sort of treated by these potential bidders in the press when they've said, don't worry about the mess the club's in, we're going to fix that, which the Glazers obviously have put us in this mess, we're upset about. So it's giving them this ultimatum does seem a strange way of going about your sort of relationship with them. Who knows though, it may be successful. Here's what the Times are saying. It says, Sir Jim Ratcliffe and petrochemicals firm Ineos have emerged as clear favourites to complete a deal with the club's owners, the Glazer family, and have entered the final stages of negotiations with Rain, the New York bank handling the sale. That led Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani, the chairman of one of Qatar's biggest banks and the son of one of the state's richest individuals, tabling a fourth offer of more than $5 billion after the April 28th deadline for what were supposed to be the third and final bids from all interested parties. But in a move that points to Sheikh Jassim sensing he may have lost to Ratcliffe, an improved offer has been sent directly to the Glazers and Rain with a request that they receive a response by Friday, or they will withdraw from the process. While it remains to be seen if it proves successful, the latest development in a process that has been running since November is a measure of the growing sense of frustration among all the bidders as they wait for the Glazers to make a decision. There's just one other thing with this as well.
Columbo.
Sorry, yeah, just one more thing. Like, Sheikh Jassim, a year ago, we weren't really hearing about him. No. There was no indication that he wanted to buy Manchester United. It wasn't like he'd been sort of reported to be interested or whatever. I'm not saying he wasn't a fan. I'm not saying he didn't have an interest, but there was nothing in the reports that we've seen. There was a lot with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, going back 18 months, 2 years. So he's been pretty patient, and he might be used to that anyway, because he's been waiting for a little while, because he's had to wait. Sheikh Jassim, since November, has sort of emerged and has become the front runner. So he might be a little bit more impatient because he's had 6 months of this. And for him, that might seem like too long. Yeah. Where if you've already been waiting sort of 18 months or whatever, when Sir Jim Ratcliffe was first touted as being a Manchester United potential owner, you might not be that bothered or that upset over the fact it's dragging on. Where Sheikh Jassim might be like, listen, I'm not used to having to deal like this. This is just a shambles. Just to give you sort of party line, not the party line, but what others are saying. Fabrizio Romano, he's put on a tweet, Sheikh Jassim submitted a fifth bid to buy 100% of Manchester United. It's an improved bid with clear indication, take it or leave it. There will be no more bids from Qatari Group after this Friday. Sheikh Jassim will no longer engage with the process. What do you feel, Joe? Do you feel like this could be, well, I didn't fancy you anyway, type tackle when your missus leaves you? Or do you think that this could be listen, I'm not waiting. Here's what I think gets me over the line. Yeah. Done.
I think the problem that Sheikh Jassim is going to have with his insistence on owning 100% of Manchester United is, if you think what the Glazers are thinking, they're thinking, let's say they lose 70% of the shares they own to Jim Ratcliffe. That's just a number I've pulled up. But, they will then own a less than meaningful amount of shares, but still a hugely valuable amount of shares. They're not going to be able to make boardroom decisions, but they've still got a good financial stake in the club. In their heads, I think, from the rumours we've heard over the last few months, the Glazers, especially Joel and Avram, who seem to be the ones most attached to the club, emotionally invested, who want to stay on, or financially invested, let's be honest, they think that we can sell our shares now for X, and then in 5 years' time, our remaining shares will be worth 2x. If Jim Ratcliffe comes in, wins 3 Premier Leagues in the next decade, wins a Champions League or 2 in that time as well, makes United, as big as Man City in terms of as successful as Man City, obviously we're always going to be bigger than Man City, but as successful as City, and makes United worth twice as much as they are now, the Glazers will end up getting something to the tune of 7 or 8 billion for their shares, whereas Jim Ratcliffe is obviously offering a lot less than that. But even Sheikh Jassim, he can never offer as much as they think they might get if the takeover goes well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this potential future share that they will be keeping hold of could be worth triple what they've got now, for all they know. And by the sound of it, that's what they think could happen. So for Sheikh Jassim to match that and beat that, he would offer so much above market value for United that I don't think it would be worth it for him. The way that Ratcliffe has structured this deal is such that the Glazers basically get to have their cake and eat it.
Yeah.
They get to make a few billion now and potentially make another few billion from a smaller percentage because of how much the value of the club has increased.
Yeah.
And like I said, Jassim would have to make a bid of like 7 or 8 billion, which no one in their right mind is going to do, to potentially match what they could get from doing it the Ratcliffe and Ineos way.
Yeah, it is curious. And I'm going to get into some more articles because Jamie Jackson, who we had on here on Monday, didn't we? We had him on the Paddock podcast. He's done an article as well. So I'll give you his take. But load of comments flying in, so I'll get through some of the comments first. Yeah. Bojan Popov says, why is everything with United so slow? We got Sancho after a year of transfer talk, last summer. Frankie talks for 3 months, Takeover for 8 months, get the Glazers out ASAP.
Well, Kieran Maguire was talking about that. They are just dawdling businessmen or business people. They're notoriously not actually great at business.
Well, they didn't like. Malcolm Glazer was an awful person in terms of what he did to Manchester United, but you can at least say he made that happen himself with his business acumen.
He was a successful business person.
They're just like his kids.
Yeah,
they're just spoiled brats who got given this club when he died.
Yeah.
So they've not done anything where you go, well, they're really business savvy. You can see that you might not like him, but they know how to turn a profit. They know how to make themselves money. They know how to do this. No, they're just like the royal family or something. Yeah. Given things. And
they've inherited Malcolm Glazer's money and assets and aren't very good at dealing with them. Not that he was particularly good at it, not with United, but at least he made his millions himself. They just inherited theirs.
Exactly, just second generation rich kids. Yeah. Arka Nag Chowdhury says, you both want Sir Jim. Seriously, you want City destroying all achievement we achieved. This is all in caps, by the way. All fans outside England want Sheikh Jassim to be new owner because we all saw what City has been achieved. Shame on you. Everything about that comment is incorrect. I mean, I don't think we've both said we both want Sir Jim seriously. You want City destroying all your achievement we've achieved. No, I definitely don't want that. And I don't think every person outside the UK wants Sheikh Jassim. I don't think you can... Actually, we don't know. They might do, but I think that's a bit nonsensical, to be honest with you. Next UK says, we're being sold to Ineos. They already agreed a loan deal with Neymar. Wait and see. The narrative is at least weeks behind reality. And also, Christopher Matthews has been a member of the Academy for 15 months. I worry about the absolute carnage that would occur if the Glazers do not sell, but might be necessary to force a sale.
I think they're definitely selling. I don't think there's a question anymore. I mean, I don't think there ever was. As I've said from the start, they know, even you can bury your head in the sand as much as you want, the level of protest that would have come from them not selling at all after going this far down the process would have been like nothing we've ever seen at Old Trafford. So, I don't think there's any chance they don't sell. The next point is, if it is to be Sheikh Jassim, obviously there will be the PR of the supposed sports washing and the human rights and these sorts of things that come from that. If it's Jim Ratcliffe, there's still an element of, his background and what's the word? Greenwashing, where he's polluted the planet and all of that sort of stuff. And also the PR of how do you explain the fact that the Glazers are still in the club?
I'll be honest with you, right? Can we just get serious for a minute? And let's be honest. Most people don't give a toss about greenwashing. No. They don't, right? Because I've never even heard of that before he took over. I've never even heard of people in my life or in my comments or in the chat and socials talking about the environment. I've got a few friends who are sort of environmentally mindful, but it wasn't a big thing. I don't think that's an issue. I do know that everyone cares about the Glazers staying. Yeah. Everyone I've spoken to cares about that. Yeah. So I do think that'll be an issue. I think people will stomach the greenwashing. Not everyone. There'll be some that don't, and I get that. But by and large, most people, it's not going to bother them. But the Glazers staying, I think, will unite everyone.
They need, if it is to be Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos, we need a very clear, very obvious, very definitive path that the Glazers will be gone permanently, that cannot be redacted, cannot be altered in years to come. If the rumour is that there will be these options for the shares to either be sold by the Glazers when they want, or a mandatory purchase of those shares at a certain point.
That's how the Glazers took over. They have the compulsory purchase order. Yeah. I remember sitting on Full-Time Devils with Ian Sterling, God rest him, and he said, I owned a bit of the 99 treble winning team. I owned a bit of that club, sorry. And then we had this compulsory purchase order a few years later when the Glazers got over the threshold, and we had to give our shares to them. It was so annoying and frustrating.
But if I think that's one way it could be stomached long term, is if Jim Ratcliffe comes out and says, I will be buying the entirety of this club, or certainly the entirety of the Class A, the Class B shares, that the Glazers own from them in the next 5 years. That isn't ideal. No one would choose that. No. But I think if they stop having control and there is a definite plan for them to stop having any involvement, that is, to me, better than them owning the club as a whole. I mean,
it's difficult because if you say like, that's better, people go, well, you want that. No, we don't want that. No. Obviously, them having no control of the club is better than them having control. But the ideal scenario is they don't have anything to do with the club. They've gone completely. But we don't know how that's going to pan out because at the minute, it looks like one of the options, and you could argue the favourite option, or the favoured option, I should say, not that everyone wants it, but the one looking most likely is that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's successful and the Glazers stay on in some capacity. But we don't know yet. Sheikh Jassim could still be successful. This could be that blow them out of the water bid. Jamie Jackson in The Guardian, who, when he was on here, he said he's covered this quite a lot and he's had certain sources, hasn't he, from, I think it's from the Qatari side, he's heard a few things and he's reported on that. This is what he said about it. He said, Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani submitted a take it or leave it improved fifth and final offer of no more than $6 billion. So that's quite interesting, to buy Manchester United this week, with the Qatari banker determined to disengage with the sale process on Friday if it is not accepted. Sheikh Jassim and his advisors have become frustrated with the drawn-out process overseen by the Glazers. He then goes on to say, given the protracted nature of the process, which includes extended deadlines, it is unclear whether Sheikh Jassim would end his interest should his self-imposed Friday deadline not be heeded. In line with his previous offers, the latest one is for 100% of the club. It also says Sheikh Jassim is conscious of that if he becomes a new owner, as soon as possible, to give Erik ten Hag time to strengthen his squad. But that's interesting, isn't it? Because Jamie's saying there, he might still carry on. This isn't set in stone. He could say, this is my take it or leave it offer. If you don't accept this, I'm done with you. They could go, we're almost there. And he could go, all right then, I was about a bit more.
Well, that's the thing.
You don't know.
It's a self-imposed deadline.
So it's meaningless.
Yeah.
It's like we had deadlines by them, didn't we? Remember that one of the first deadlines they set? Or no, it was the second one. And then it was leaked, so it came out that Sheikh Jassim had asked for an extension. Or so would Jim Ratcliffe, I think. I think Ratcliffe might have been first, actually. I can't remember which one was first. Yeah. One of them asked for an extension. The other one did as well. So that deadline was meaningless. So this deadline, because it's self-imposed, it's not you're not contractually obliged to walk away. He could say, or he could get the impression that he is neck and neck, or he's winning, or whatever, or he's just nearly there, and he could decide to make another improved offer. You don't know.
The sorts of people we're talking about here with Ratcliffe and Sheikh Jassim these are some of the richest and most powerful men in the world, aren't they? Jim Ratcliffe is Britain's richest man. I think, is Britain the sixth richest country in the world?
I did the news the other day because the Sunday Times rich list came out, and he's worth 29.6 billion, I think it was.
And Sheikh Jassim is in a family, and it says in the article his dad is one of the richest men in Qatar. Like, these are men in their entire lives who aren't used to being embarrassed or made to look silly. And I think this suggests to me that Sheikh Jassim is saying, if I, knowing that seemingly Ineos have got an advantage, if I stick around, basically he's waiting for the only chance he has, maybe, is for the Ineos deal to fall through, and then go, actually, Sheikh Jassim, what about the offer? That could potentially make him look a little bit silly. So it seems that self-imposed deadline is a way for him to say, I'm doing this on my terms, as it says in that article. I think, billionaires, wherever you're from, are clearly, they've had a lot of success in their life and aren't used to being made to to look silly, or to make out that they've got things wrong. So I think this seems like maybe a sort of self-preservation tactic from Sheikh Jassim, this Friday deadline.
That's what's being suggested in a couple of the articles. But again, get involved in the comments and let us know what you think. It's a Duck who's been a member of the first team for 9 months. Don't forget, we've got extra content as well in the members section. And please hit the like button. There's over 3,500 people watching, not even 300 likes. Hit that like button. It's a Duck says, it does really seem like a whelp. I tried. Face-saving bid. If it is to be Sir Jim, has he said what his plan would be? I'm a bit behind with the process. J Money Boy says, let's call a shaped. Deep down, everyone wants Qatari, and they are the only one offering 100% sale. Also, Sir Jim is offering 3.5 now and 3 billion later. In terms of Sir Jim's plans, he just sort of said he wanted to. It's always been like restore to former glories and make it a community-based club or whatever. It's all a little bit vague. I think with Sheikh Jassim, there's been more of the suggestions that there's going to be this new stadium, there's going to be this new training ground, there's going to be loads of new players. With Sir Jim, it's a little bit more vague and ambiguous. I don't think there's been as much reports anyway, because I don't think anyone, well, I certainly don't know, but there's not been as many reports that he's definitely going to do this.
It seems like Jim Ratcliffe's bid and his ownership in general would be more of a typical football ownership model that we're used to seeing over the last however many decades.
Yeah,
it seems to be more in line with a businessman who has got plenty of money, obviously, buys enough stake of a football club to own control of that football club, and then runs it as a football club. The Qatari bid seems to be more of we're buying everything. we're buying the land around the stadium. There's been talks of investment in the local area. There's been talks of this new style that we've seen at City and to a lesser degree at Chelsea, but where you're not just taking hold of the football club, you're taking hold of the entire community in and around that football club, like City have done, building that. I don't know if they have built it themselves, but the land around them has got this new co-op event space. They've got all the training facilities around the Etihad. They've built new stadiums for the academy and all that. Like, it's more of a modern, new, we're just sort of taking control of everything way of looking at football ownership, whereas Jim Ratcliffe seems to be more like a bloke owns his team. Do you know what I mean? Or a team, not his team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. I hear that. And with City, apparently, when Sheikh Mansour was looking at clubs, when the Abu Dhabi group were looking at clubs, one of the appealing factors in Manchester City was the land around the stadium. Because let's face facts, City haven't won anything for decades. They had paltry crowds, no history. There was nothing about Manchester City that makes you think that's the club I want to buy. It's not like Sheikh Mansour had pictured David Brightwell and Paul Stewart on his walls. He bought them for a reason. Because he saw potential there. They've got the infrastructure already in place. I can build it around the stadium and the land there. Yeah. I can build this sort of, like you say, this big project. And it's worked for him, unfortunately. It's been very, very successful. Although you can argue, there's still them 115 charges they're waiting to hear about. So we'll see how successful it pans out to be. But at the minute, it has been very successful. I don't think there's any denying that. And that is something that appeals to him. So you're right, you make a great point there. And, it's not just been about the club or the just the team. It's about what can we do with some of the money we've seen coming in. Prince Vorahi says, Sheikh Jassim is the only realistic chance we have to compete, I think this meant to say, at the top level. Most people want him as well. Run a poll and you'll see what people want. Listen, I get the idea, right, that Sheikh Jassim comes in and he spends loads of money and we succeed. I have never, ever bought into the idea, though, that without Sheikh Jassim, it's done. No. Without him, United are done. I've never bought into that idea. I think if you actually got proper football people in place, yes, Sheikh Jassim probably, if he has all this access to this money, could give you unlimited transfers within FFP anyway. I get all that. But if you look at the money we've misspent and the way we've not had football people in place, if we actually had proper football people in place, spent the money wisely, we could compete. As long as we have some money to spend, and when I say some, I mean to go for the big signings and to compete, then yeah, there is a way that United can continue. Because the reason I say that is if I'm sat in here, and I don't know who's going to be successful, we don't know. It could be Sheikh Jassim, it could be Sir Jim Ratcliffe, it could be neither of them. If I'm sat here on Friday afternoon or whenever, and I go, right, well, it's not Sheikh Jassim buying Man United, it's Sir Jim Ratcliffe or it's someone else, does that mean I think United are never going to compete again? No, of course not. I don't. I think United can always compete if you give the manager the tools, and I don't think that means you have to have Qatar or we're done. I just don't buy into that. I think Manchester United are too big for that.
United have spent almost as much money on players as City in the last decade. The reason they've won more games than us isn't because they've dramatically outspent us. They've outspent what is their actual own spending power with their new owners, but they haven't spent much more than United. The reason we've been so bad is because we've been ran by idiots, like you've said. We've been the people making those decisions, the people spending that money have been shit at it. So you could easily have Sheikh Jassim come in, spend twice what City is spending, and still be shit. Yeah. It's no guarantee because you spend money you win games. That tends to be the case, but United are literally living proof that is very much not a hard and fast rule. Also, look at, Real Madrid or Barcelona. I know, obviously, you can go into their finances and all that, but they aren't owned by, multi-billionaire, trillionaire owners. They've got a different model. Look at Bayern Munich. They've been very successful over the last decade, won 2 Champions Leagues. They aren't owned by, whoever, a billionaire, trillionaire, are they? It's a different model. So you don't have to be owned by someone of Sheikh Jassim's wealth to compete. No. That just isn't true. And use PSG as an example, who not only is a good one because it is they're owned by some of the same money that would be taken over Manchester United. At least that's what's being reported. Yeah. And they win the French league every year, but that's because they outspend everyone in that league by a million miles, which United couldn't do regardless of who their owners were. Yeah. But they've been awful in the Champions League. Yeah. The way that money has been spent, again, is more proof that even with a trillionaire owner, you can still fuck it up. They had Messi, Mbappe and Neymar up front, and they did not get close to winning the Champions League with them. Like, it's about good decision-making, not about outspending everyone by a million miles. That might win you the league if you're playing in France, but it won't make you the best team in Europe, as we've seen over the last decade. Good decisions are better than big money, every time.
Well, there is a contradiction to that, and that's Chelsea, because they've spent a lot of money, and look how successful they've been this last year.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? You need to spend money in the right way. So, yes, whilst there's an obvious argument that with Sheikh Jassim, you're going to have more money to spend, I don't think it means if we don't get him, we're done. That's my point. I just don't buy into that idea, like you saying there, Joe. Shashin Paul says, not trolling, but how come every single person, Fergie, SJR, Gil and Ollie, keep saying how great the Glazers are? Fergie was cozying up to them in Wembley. Yeah, a lot of people get annoyed with pictures of Sir Alex Ferguson with the Glazers and the fact that they see it as he enabled this with the whole Rock of Gibraltar thing, and there is an argument that is the case or whatever, that if he hadn't fallen out with the owners, maybe we wouldn't have ended up with the Glazers. But I think Fergie, for my opinion, what it's worth, learned his lesson when he fell out with the owners. When the Glazers come in, he wasn't going to go toe-to-toe with another set of owners. I think he should have been backed more than he was. I think we did miss out on transfers because he wasn't backed properly. And I think when he said there was no value in the market, some of that was him being a little bit kind towards the owners, in my opinion, because at the same time he was saying that, you saw City going and getting the likes of Sergio Aguero and David Silva and Yaya Toure and all these other players that went on to help them win titles and stuff. So, yeah, in answer to your question, though, I think those people you mentioned have to say that, or felt like they had to say that, because if they say the Glazers are horrible, the Glazers are idiots, then they're not going to deal with Sir Jim Ratcliffe who wants to buy him. They're going to sack Sir David Gill, who worked for him. They could end up not giving Fergie any money, or another fallout with another owner which he didn't want, and they would have sacked Ollie. So there's always a reason why those people you mentioned have probably said good things about the Glazers, and I don't think it's because they were being completely honest. Get involved in the chat. We've got a poll. I mean, the poll's pretty sort of landslide victory for Sheikh Jassim in Who'd You Rather See Takeover. He's got 88%, while Sir Jim Ratcliffe has got 12%. Brian Casey keeps saying this. He said this a few times. Glazers and Ratcliffe out, no more debt. Witterbird says, hey everyone, let's give Jay and What's-His-Face a like while you're here. She put laughing emoji there next to What's-His-Face, because everyone knows his name's Jake. Come on, man. Also in the chats, Red or Dead says, if you can't beat him, join him. Qatari investment. This seems to be the thing, like Qatari investment's the only help me, Obi-Wan, you're my only hope, is the only way forward, and it seems to be the overwhelming sentiment from people in the comments and the chat as well. Squawk says, love you, Jay. Thank you.
And the other one?
JB White says, Joe is fuming. Do you know what? I've known Joe now for about
2 weeks?
For 4 days.
Yep.
And I think you've only lost your temper about 8 times during that time.
I don't lose my temper very
often.
You
don't, do you?
No.
Yeah. So we are. I reckon you're one of them. You're going to snap one day. You're going to snap over nothing.
Yeah, and you come down here and there's just a pile of dead bodies.
Like the production team are dead. The studio's all smashed up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm live, just by myself. The camera's on a wide, panting like a chimp that's escaped his enclosure at the zoo, and I've just torn apart my handlers.
It would be the ultimate irony if out of you and Steve, it was you that snapped first. Because Steve snaps a few times, but not properly. It's been more of a hissy fit, if we're being brutally honest. But it'd be quite funny if it was you that went first. Nabil Akbar said...
That would be funny.
It would be funny. I mean, also devastating, because it'd probably mean I have to look for a new job. Currently, financially, United have no money with debt payments, and it needs investment on the structure.
Yeah.
Don't delude yourself. Multiple owners aren't efficient. It has to be full sale only. Delusional. So he's saying full sale only, because that is the whole Qatari model here. What we're hearing is full sale only. Listen, let me just go on.
I tell you what, though, in all, you know, I think we need, depending on, let's say it is Jim Ratcliffe, because that seems to be the most likely outcome at the minute, doesn't it? Based on that article. He needs to come out and really do a fucking brilliant job of that first interview. It has to be, here's what's happening with the Glazers. And obviously, again, he's going to be someone who can't slag them off too much if they're his business partner. But here's how they're going to be going. Here's why it doesn't matter that they are here for while they are. Here's what I'm going to do with the stadium. Here's what I'm going to do with the training ground. Here's what I'm going to do with transfers. Like, he can't just come in and go, same as it was. If he just carries on with what the Glazers was doing, but with no debt, that is slightly better. Obviously, no debt is better than debt. Yeah. But if he just says, no, Old Trafford's fine, we'll keep patching up the roof every 6 months or every 6 years, whatever it is. You know, Carrington's lovely. We've put a couple of PlayStations in the foyer. It's up to scratch. That's not going to wash. And I think he must know that. So I can't imagine a world where Jim Ratcliffe comes in and is immediately hated by all the United fans because he's got absolutely no idea about the problems we've had for the last 20 years. He has to have a plan of how to handle this PR-wise. And like Kieran Maguire said yesterday, the best way of handling it is win games and make good decisions and win trophies. Support the manager. Don't be going gung-ho like we've seen with Todd Burley. Don't sack a manager every time they have a bad 6 weeks. And, we might have a bit of success on our hands. But there has to be a plan for all of those things as well. It's not good enough that, you're from the local area and you used to be a United fan. That's not going to wash if we've still got a stadium with holes in the roof. So he's got to have a phenomenal PR month if it is to be Jim Ratcliffe. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's got to explain all of this shit to us because at the moment there are so many holes in it that something needs to get plugged.
I like that. I'm going to just give a recap because I know there's a lot of people that have joined us since we first started, and you'll see the breaking news. Sheikh Jassim, new bid. It's a take it or leave it final offer, 5th and final offer. We have heard that before, though. But he's saying if he don't hear back from him by Friday, or they haven't decided what they're doing by Friday, he's going to walk away. So I'll go through some of the tweets from journalists to give you a flavour of what's going on. Matt Lawton, even from The Times, he tweeted, Sheikh Jassim will withdraw from the process if his 5th and final offer from Manchester United is not accepted by Friday. That reads to me like they fear Ratcliffe. Ineos have won and they're walking away on their own terms. That said, nothing is signed yet, so you don't know. He doesn't know. Fabrizio Romano, Sheikh Jassim submitted a 5th bid to buy 100% of Manchester United. It is an improved bid with clear indication. Take it or leave it. There will be no more bids from Qatari Group after this Friday. Sheikh Jassim will no longer engage with the process. Jamie Jackson, he's more or less just tweeted his article, I think. So I'm going to just go, I know I said I was going to do the tweets, but there's an interesting point in Jamie's article where he's written about the other things I've mentioned there, about the sort of this being the take it or leave it offer. But he also said that in his article that he could carry on. He could come on with another bid. This isn't set in stone that he does walk away on Friday. This is what he's saying. He could change his mind. We don't know. He says it's... I'll read through what he says here. He says... Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani submitted a take it or leave it improved 5th and final offer of no more than $6 billion to buy United, with the Qatari banker determined to disengage from the process on Friday if it is not accepted. The Guardian has been told that this has moved to decide that Friday is the cut-off point for any further engagement, the implication being that if the bid is not accepted, he will walk away. Sources close to Sheikh Jassim describe it as crunch time. He then goes on to say, though, given the protracted nature of the process, which includes extended deadlines, it is unclear whether Sheikh Jassim would end his interest should his self-imposed Friday deadline not be heeded. In line with his previous offers, the latest one is for 100% of the club. What we gathered with Sir Jim Ratcliffe's offer, it was around anything between 69%, which was the Glazer shares, or 51%, which was to take controlling stake and allow them to keep some of their shares, and then he would buy them out over time, but he would have control of the football club. So there's lots of different sort of caveats to this and different approaches to this as well. Loads of people in the chat and the comments, loads of people watching. Hit that like button. Let's get to 1,000 likes. Over 4,000 people watching. Let's hit to 1,000 likes. And I'll get in some super chats before I come back to my good friend here and get your take on this. Nabil Akbar says, SJR is Glazer 2.0. Qatar will go buy another club. Then we will have 3 clubs to compete with. You can clearly look with what City are doing at Newcastle. This is the thing though, right? Will he buy another club, Sheikh Jassim, or did you think Qatar themselves? Because isn't he a United fan? Isn't the point of this is a United fan?
Well,
so
is
he
it?
Wants it.
Yeah,
that's one thing I don't get. If he's like, if you're United, I'm a United fan, right? If I couldn't buy United if I had loads of money, I wouldn't go and buy Liverpool.
Yeah.
Or anyone else. Do you know what I mean? Like, right, okay, I'm not going to own the club that I wanted to own. I'll do something else.
And also,
so that's one thing I don't get.
For me,
this argument that he'll buy someone else.
If we don't get him, someone else will. Like that was the reasoning we bought Fred. That was the reasoning we bought Alexis Sanchez. That is not good reason to do anything. No. It's the reason is this good for Manchester United? And is this good for the sort of the entire landscape of football? That is my question. Yeah. Not, well, someone else will have him, so we should get him. I don't think of it like that. No. We should do what is right for Man United, and what maybe not what is right for football is a bit sort of, moral high ground and all that, depending on what you make of the way money is sort of controlling football at the moment. But That's not, to me, the logic I would use to decide who I want to Man United. If we don't get them, someone else will. Because, even if Sheikh Jassim buys another club, there are still plenty of billionaires, more than enough billionaires, to buy every one of the Premier League clubs. Look at what's happening in Saudi Arabia at the moment. That who knows, in 5 years' time, all the best players in the world might be playing in Saudi Arabia, and all of this might not matter at all.
Yeah.
They're signing people up on the sorts of contracts that we have never seen in football before. $400 million a year for Lionel Messi, $200 million a year for Benzema. This isn't even comparable to the sport we have seen and the growth we have seen in that sport over the last 100 years. This is now a gigantic jump on anything we've ever seen before. So this whole thing of they'll go somewhere else, they might do, but there's enough billionaires that football is going to be radically different in 20 years, whether United get owned by Sheikh Jassim or not.
Yeah, exactly. Vineeth VS says, with Qatar, there is a banner of oil club that we get. That will not go away. We will need tons of academy players stitched into the first team to avoid it. But Oilchester Derby will be unavoidable, is what he's saying. Or they're saying, sorry. Sam Zed says, Glazers playing on the law for Qataris of taking over United and upping Saudis and UAE with our stature. It's very political and Glazers exploiting it. He says there's a political angle to this. Rory C says, if he had plans for a new stadium to clear the debt, that would have been leaked. Fact is, he can't afford it, hence Ineos needs to take on new debt. I think he can afford it. I don't think he's just not using his own money. I don't know this idea that he's skinned. I'm not really sure about that one. Nabil Akbar says, currently financially, I've read that one. Snapping the Cosmos, who's been a member of the Academy for 6 months, says there are no flawless billionaires. They are all driven by money only. Main thing is to get it done quickly before it's F's up the window in pre-season. I agree with that on the billionaires front. I don't think there are any lovely, flawless billionaires.
No. You can't earn that much money without someone somewhere being hard done by. I think it's just in the structures that we have in the world, that is really, really almost impossible to do. So, there's no flawless billionaires.
There's no flawless billionaires, but there is a flawless presenter, and his name is Joe Smith.
His name's the other one.
Yes, the other one. They did come back in the comments and say, we love you, Joe, as well.
Oh, that's good, thank you.
Just also, before we wrap up, I just want to say, have you seen that Jude Bellingham is going to Real Madrid?
Is that confirmed now?
I think that's here we go tackle, isn't it, Bellingham?
Yeah.
Now my laptop decides to stop working. I saw it earlier today. I think it's pretty much been confirmed that he's going to go, there you go. Fabrizio Romano, Jude Bellingham, Real Madrid, here we go. Agreement in place with Borussia Dortmund. I don't say Mönchengladbach then. It's done deal. Fee 100 million plus add-ons. Bellingham will sign a 6-year deal valid until 2029. Agreed in April. Well, we were never going to get him anyway, were we?
No.
We couldn't get him when he was at Birmingham and we showed him around the stadium and let the training ground, let Fergie meet him. So I always felt that was not going to happen, especially when we don't even know who our owner's going to be. At least, obviously, costing upwards 100 million. Yep. But it's just kind of funny because Liverpool thought they were getting him, didn't they?
I know.
And also, I'm relieved he's not that.
Remember when Liverpool thought they were getting Mbappe as well because he wore a Nike kit? Fucking hell. That turned out well, didn't it? You sold Mbappe. Not Mbappe. You sold Mane and replaced him with someone who's been injured all season. That wasn't Mbappe. Good stuff.
Anyway, we'll be back later on today. Me and Joe will be back about 10 o'clock after the West Ham game, innit? West Ham tonight. Yeah. Hello, is that West Ham? We're back. Any updates, as always, we'll keep you posted on our socials, and if we need to, we'll go live as well. But a fifth and final bid has come in from Sheikh Jassim. He's going to walk away on Friday if he isn't successful. We'll have to wait and see. So it remains to be seen whether he will be successful. But in a minute, it's all hotting up in it. We just need it done, and we need some shiny new transfers.
Absolutely.
That is what football is about.
Yeah.
Not winning things, not trophies or winning matches. It's transfers, man. Yeah. That's the only reason I'm a football fan. Anyway, that's been Joe Smith. Where can people find you?
It's Sloppy Joe's podcast. New episode out yesterday. Make sure you go check that out. Talk about the FA Cup final, unfortunately, but have a look.
Yeah, go and check them out. You know where to find me as well. I've been Jay. This has been Breaking News with Joe Smith. Thanks for watching.